Hey guys, Brian Hilliard here, author of the best-selling book, Networking Like a Pro, and I am here with my good friend James Cooper, who is the co-founder of Tribenest and certified DISC professional trainer. Thanks so much for stopping by, James.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, you know, one of the things, and we've talked about this, you have got a great little concept going on down in Houston, Texas. It's called Tribenest.
Yes.
Right? And what that means, if people haven't heard of it before, is it is a community of business owners and professionals who are looking to grow themselves and their business.
That's so true.
You know, I think a lot of times, and this is why I love, talking about this, a lot of times people are, and I talk about this a lot as well, a lot of times people want to get more.
Yeah.
Right before being more.
Yes.
Okay. They want to get more money, get more clients, do all this other stuff. And you and I have talked about this.
Right.
If you want to get more, you need to be more first.
So true.
And Tribenest, really, you guys have this broken down into 3 pillars.
Yep.
Of just kind of progressions that allows people to be successful. And I was thinking we could just go through each one of them real quick.
Sounds great.
Just to give these guys a little feel for what that's all about.
Great.
All right, so the first one is self-awareness.
Yes.
Right? So talk a little bit about what that looks like, and then we can just kind of go from there and go from there.
So self-awareness, of course, sometimes you think of it in a context of getting to know yourself, knowing your values, those kinds of things.
Right.
But we're taking everything from a business perspective. So we got to know who we are, what's important to us, what our values are. Also, begin with the end in mind. Know what we're trying to get out of our business before we even start it.
Good point.
Sometimes business kind of moves us or pushes us, expectations come in.
Right.
We want to build a business and a life that we're going to be happy with in the end.
Right.
So a lot of times we get started, we start meeting customer demands or other things. Let's begin knowing what we're trying to build, and then when we build our organization and we got to put it in that extra effort to do it, it doesn't feel like a chore. It feels like that passion is still there. So really we got to know our position in the marketplace. We got to know what our unique talents are as a person.
I was actually going to mention that.
Yeah. Then whenever we go out, we're working within our comfort zone. We're working within things that we're good at, and then we feel really good about the product and services that we're working with.
Well, you as a certified DISC trainer, one of the things that you talk about all the time is obviously the DISC model, right?
Yes.
So DISC,
Yes.
driver, intuitive.
Or the influencer.
Influencer, excuse me, that's right. S is support, C is
the compliance.
That's exactly right. So what happens is you recommend, I believe, actually just running through a quick little self-assessment first, right? With Tribenest, let's run through a quick self-assessment, because if you're an I like myself, you might be good at talking and engaging, but you might not have the details.
That's so
true. If you're a D, you might be turning people off. You don't even realize it.
You sure could be. You could be losing business there,
and you don't even realize it. And you're thinking about doubling down.
Yeah, you're gonna go harder.
Hit it harder.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're an S, you might be doing some other things. A C, the other things. So talk a little bit about specifics in terms of how you've kind of got people with the whole DISC piece and how that kind of manifests itself through this self-awareness pillar that you have through Tribenest.
Yeah, you're right about that. So self-awareness, DISC, we call that our language. It's our foundational language. So starting recently, everyone who comes in takes the DISC.
Right.
It's not a long, drawn-out process.
I took it. 15 minutes?
Yeah, it's a 10 to 15-minute conversation.
Right.
But you get a lot of insights into how you're unique, how you process information.
Right.
More importantly, how you like to communicate.
Right.
And when we start thinking about how we like to communicate, there are people out there who like to communicate in a different way.
Right.
So if we're in a sales environment or we're trying to manage people, and we like to do things one way or maybe a couple of ways, and we don't have that ability to be flexible, we are leaving money on the table.
Right.
We're also hurting our quality of life because conflict is usually based on what? A lack of communication.
Right, and differences.
And differences between us. It's not really landing. So we start our first couple of modules, and specifically with self-awareness, it digs into really getting to know what makes us comfortable, getting comfortable with the fact that we're unique, we're different, and once we know our strengths and weaknesses, let's accentuate those strengths, use that in the business to go make money and feel good about it.
Right.
And on the other hand, let's cut down on the conflict.
Right.
Let's get people around us understanding us, and it's amazing that we've had a couple go through the first module just in the last 3 or 4 days.
Okay.
I'm getting emails and texts and reports back.
Eureka!
I feel better about my business all of a sudden, and feeling better and growing as a person. As we talked about, your business starts to grow.
That's exactly
People see that little light in your eye, that you're connected to what you're doing.
That's interesting. I love that. And unfortunately, I think here in the United States, we have this kind of go deal that don't whatever you do, don't stop.
Don't stop. You can't afford to.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Whatever you do,
the other guy's moving. We got to move too, right? Whatever where we're going.
That's exactly right.
So we're going forward. Whatever forward is.
In the general direction of what we think is forward.
Yes.
And I think self-awareness is huge. And I think that's one of the things that makes you guys different. All right, let's talk about the second pillar real quick. That's getting into mindset.
Yes.
Right? Mindset, I've talked about this. I've said this before, and I will continue saying it as long as I think I can, which is that mindset, I think, is 85 to 90% of what is
so big.
You know, we're writing the book. We've obviously written Networking Like a Pro. And part of in that is the idea that you have three things, right? You have a skill set, you have a mindset, and you have a tool set. and you know, you can have the right skills and not have the right mindset.
So true.
You can have the right tools and not have the skills to use it.
Right.
But I think mindset, and that's why I love it that it's here.
Overarching one.
I think that really ties it all together. Talk about what mindset is in your definition, and then maybe how you go about that with Tribenest.
Sure. So to me, mindset, and we've talked about this, is that lens that you're looking through, right? It's you wake up in the morning. How do you approach things? How do you think about things? And there's a lot of childhood things, a lot of things we're conditioned to do.
Right.
You talked about just the American way of life, the way we live.
Right.
It pushes certain ideas on us from childhood and school.
Right.
Jobs we've had in corporate America.
Right.
There's things we believe are true that may not be true.
Right.
So mindset, sometimes we get in this scarcity, or we may have fears or limiting beliefs that have never been expressed.
I love that. Limiting beliefs. Talk a little bit about that. Because a limiting belief, when I hear that, is I feel like I could, like, for example, I feel like I could make 50,000.
Yes.
But I don't know, I'm not really comfortable making 70,000.
Or even talking about it.
Right.
Or even talking about it. There's sometimes barriers to making more money than our parents made.
Right.
It's unstated.
Right.
Feelings are not words. They feel a certain way. Or maybe we were taught that it's not okay to make some money so we can take care of ourselves.
Right.
Or maybe we've been told all the time, well, you know, you're not the best speaker.
Right.
So you live your life just, well, I'm just not a good speaker, so guess what? You're not.
Right.
And we don't work on it. We don't feel like we can approach those things. So sometimes even later in life, we've had members that things that were never spoken, fears that were never verbalized, that when we go through that module 3, all of a sudden it's like, I've been afraid of this, and it's not even true.
Right.
I'm past that point in my life.
Right. It's not even
That's not going to happen.
Right.
You know, I've already put things in place to take care of that, but it's still with me. It's that fear.
You know, one of the biggest breakthroughs I had with mindset personally was the idea. I came from the place. So my mom was an entrepreneur, and as you know, did a lot of work, and maybe these guys know too. And my parents, really great, did a good job of raising me. Good home training. And one of the things, though, that I realized or thought I had to do, I thought that growing my business and making money was supposed to be hard work.
Yeah.
You know,
you gotta work hard.
Right. You have to work hard. And that is a true statement. Like these limiting beliefs, there's a degree of
There's
truth
something in there.
And what happened to me was I took that to mean that working and growing my business was on par with a trip to the gym.
Grind it out.
Long time, break a sweat, you sometimes get sore.
Right.
You know, and there was really not too much further you could go.
Yes.
And once I realized, boy, that's a limiting belief.
It is.
You know, then suddenly I started doing things like automating webinars.
Right.
Then suddenly I did things like automating sales funnels. Then I started doing things like, you know, hiring another assistant.
Right.
You know,
growing the team.
Right, right. Then I started doing these things. But before I got my mind right,
you're stuck.
I was stuck. You know what I tell people? It's like when you don't have your mindset right, it's like having a foot on the gas and the brake pedal.
Yes, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Another thing we talk about, the little story we tell is, if you've ever seen the elephant that gets tied to the little stake in the ground.
Yeah.
So you see a giant elephant.
Right.
He's got a tiny chain and a tiny stake in the ground.
Right.
And he won't even pull on it.
No.
You're like, what's the problem? You
Right.
could break the chain, pull the stake out, but when they're young, when they're little, they tie them to that stake in the ground. They feel confined, they can't get out.
Right.
They don't test it anymore.
Correct.
And so until someone comes along to talk to us, or we think about what it is that's holding me back from growing as a person, and then growing my business, then we're literally just letting that tiny stake, and all it takes is a good yank or someone helping us, and we're free.
That's interesting. I love that. Well, let's talk about the third pillar.
Yes.
Okay, that's business relationships. Okay, so first of all, just to keep you guys up to date, first of all, we talked about self-awareness. Then we talked about mindset. Now we've got business relationships. Talk a little bit about how you do that within this Tribenest community.
Yes, so business relationships, obviously, we think about networking. That's one of the words that comes to mind.
Okay.
But things that you and I have talked about that I'm big on is kind of of building your triangle, building your handful of people, those close associates. So I think it's so important to identify people that are business aligned and value aligned.
Okay.
So that business aligned piece is, we're in a close enough related business where we can help one another, where there's some flow here. But if it's not value aligned, it can be as business aligned as it wants to be. And it's not going to feel right. It's not going to flow because there's something sketchy, there's something that doesn't fit here. But when we get those handful of people on our team, selling with us and for us, investing in our goals, all of a sudden the referrals start to flow in like we like them. And now sales is not so hard anymore because we're setting each other up to win. So you got to really identify those people. You got to be interviewing positions to get on your power team all the time. You control it. You decide who's going to get your business and who's going to get your attention. And sometimes it's saying no to some networking.
You know what I call that? Divesting yourself of the relationship. We were talking about that at lunch the other day. Where, on the personal side, I had a person who, we had a relationship, and I just realized, you know what? He was taking a lot more than he was giving. You know what I mean? And you talk about this value aligned thing, and I looked at it, and he's a good guy. Like, he's a good guy. You meet him, you'll talk to him, you'll like him. I still like him. But I looked at it, and I was like, boy, you know what? He's taking more than he's giving. That's no longer a relationship, right? Because a relationship is a give and take. That's something else. I don't know. Maybe there's a word for it. I don't know what it is, but it's not relationship. So
especially not in business.
No, it doesn't. And that same thing is true in business, where if your values aren't aligned, what do we mean by that? We mean things like, for me personally, and why we work so well together, our values are aligned. We're all about the people. We're all about the community. We're all about, growing yourself and get, and being more before you get more. We're all about, doing these types of things. Mindset, learners. These are values.
They are.
That when you look at it, and you can call them core values if you want, which you guys have as well. You talk about core values and you talk about things that will move you forward. Those have to be in alignment. And I think a lot of times, especially when you're getting started, there's this temptation to try to just skip through that and get to the business.
You got to have it because you think you got to have it. But the problem is, when you're not aligned with someone, it may not be good business. And also you're not going to have that free flow. Another thing that I notice with people that do a lot of networking and maybe invest in chapter-based networking, they dig in, they really try to mine that, they work it, but sometimes they don't position their ask very well. So in other words, they're building credibility, they're building people around them that are maybe fans of theirs, that know them, have trust them, but they're not good at converting those conversations and those interactions into the expectation of, we're going to do some business.
Good point.
And there's ways to do that without coming across like a jerk. Right? So, and you've talked about it before with that consultative approach. So when you're walking down the path together and you get to the point where you're going to ask for business or closing business together, passing business, there should be no, what are you doing? Where did that come from? No, we're sending signals, and we're even when we have little one-to-one meetings, we're making expectation statements to say, look, I'm here to meet with you today so that we can break any obstacles down for us really passing business together. How does that sound to you?
That's a great
line. You could have talked to someone 8 times and not gotten anything done, and now they know this guy means business on this lunch. Like we're going to talk about. And if it doesn't work out, we pat them on the back, and we're good. And there's a whole world of people out there that will want to really play ball with us and do some business.
That is great stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that you guys talk about in Tribenest.
We do.
Right? You have, it's a membership-based organization. Tell them a little bit about exactly what that's all about.
So we are a group coaching membership. It sounds maybe a little different, but when you think about it, it's a membership. So we have group coaching sessions every month for our members. You get put in a small group, so you have a little bit of camaraderie. People to cry on their shoulder or laugh about each other's stories, or as we're working on this, of course, none of us are perfect. We got stuff to work on, but it's very interactive. But you also have a network there. You can start passing business together. You can start helping each other kind of accomplish these things. It's an hour and a half a month, so it doesn't take over your life. But we have a very structured approach. It's once a month, so you're going to go over 12 modules in 12 months. But to add value to the membership, we have a lot of other things we do. We bring people like you in town. We have monthly meetings. We have networking things. We have workshops.
Webinars.
We have webinars. We have disc trainings. We do event marketing with some of our members when they want to be speakers. So really, it's an evolving model of value add for our members. But our members are loving it. They're growing their business. One of our members who you and I worked with went from 3 clients to 17 clients.
That's a true statement.
Over a 3.5 month period.
That's a true statement.
That's just fact.
That's exactly.
So working on those things together and having a progressive approach, but also having a good entry point, because you still got to work. You still got to get things done in your business.
I think one of the biggest things in my mind that's a difference, we talked about this before, I think it's the community.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I think there's other organizations there, and that's fine. This is not mutually exclusive, by the way. So, there's other organizations that are doing other things. I think what you're really, Tribenest is really good at is creating a sense of business community of like-minded business owners and professionals who are interested in growing themselves and their business.
That's so true.
And I think when you do that and when you have that synergy, then you're creating an environment for growth. Right,
it almost just happens,
right,
and it feels good. It feels like it's natural.
You're creating an environment for growth where you have a shared success and there's a shared narrative around where and how you're going to be successful.
I think that's big. I think community. We not all of us know our neighbors like we used to.
Oh God,
we may not.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, we may not feel that sense of
don't even get me started on that.
And, things like we used to maybe a century ago.
Yeah,
right.
20 years ago. We talk about a century ago.
Sure.
Everyone was a kid. You could do that.
You at least knew who your neighbors were, right? But today we get to select or opt into where we spend our time and who with.
Right.
So networking has really replaced a lot of that sense of community.
Good point.
But a community of learners, of people who are coachable, people who are actually working on their business actively.
Right.
These are good people to spend time with. So we feel like that vision of growing this group of learners and this community of truly connected business people is something we're very passionate about.
And one thing, and we'll close out with this, one of the things I always talk about is, and it's not my idea, but birds of a feather flock together. All right, so how does that tie into the growth of your business? Well, if you're going to be around people who are moving and shaking and growing, guess what? They know other people who are moving and shaking and growing.
Naturally.
Why? Because you spend time around people that are like you.
You do, yeah.
That's why.
You're right.
So you have this community.
That attraction.
Right. This community. So you might be here and you've got this community of people, kind of in and around
working
here.
With you, advocating.
But then you have almost to the exponential power.
Yes.
Okay, not one for one, not geometric, exponential power.
Yeah.
You have access to all the different people who they know, who a percentage of them are just like them.
That's right.
All right. So that is awesome. That's awesome. How can they find out more about you guys?
So to find out more about us, go on to Tribenest.com. So it has information about our organization. You're also going to want to find us on Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook is very interactive. So we build public events for at least 1 to 2 free events every single month.
Gotcha.
You can come out and do a workshop.
Okay.
You can see some of the testimonials and things that are going on. So those are 2 great ways to find us.
All right. So Tribenest, TRIBENEST.com.
Yep.
And then you can find them on Facebook on the exact same thing.
That's exactly right.
All right. That's James Cooper. My name is Brian Hilliard saying so long, take care, and thank you for your time.